New tension over Hurricane Sandy relief. Moments after the House voted on the fiscal cliff bill, members voted to adjourn to lane the $60.4 billion bill into the 113th Congress, which convenes tomorrow. The adjournment followed a last-minute decision by Speaker John Boehner to pull back the vote. The surprise move is still setting off both Democrats and Republicans.
We should have an open debate. That's what democracy is all about. And all of a sudden, because the Tea Party or, some conservative element is worried that they have to vote on another spending bill, all of a sudden the Speaker says, well, we can't do this today.
Talk to the people. Look into their eyes. Understand their needs. Come walk with me, Mr. Speaker. Maybe then you can have the leadership that is necessary to get this bill passed today.
Dismissive attitude that was shown last night toward New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut typifies, I believe, a strain in the Republican Party. This should not be the Republican Party. This should not be the Republican leadership.
But the spokesman for House Speaker John Boehner says the bill will come up for a vote. The, quote, Speaker is committed to getting this bill passed this month. Joining me now is Congressman Peter King, a Republican from New York. Congressman King, thanks so much for being on the program.
Thank you, Luke.
I understand that John Boehner is going to meet with members of the New Jersey and New York delegation later today. This is what he said will be the first thing he'll do in the new Congress. Is that enough for you right now?
If we get it through. Now, the fact is, we've been told this before. The fact is that we have no vote scheduled for next week. We're going to meet for 2 days the week after that. The following week is the presidential inauguration. And is John Boehner going to bring this up if a majority of the majority does not agree to it? Let's face it. The overwhelming majority of the Republican Party is opposed to giving New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut the aid they need. They say we need $27 billion. This bill was for $60 billion. That's the money that Governor Cuomo, Governor Christie, and Mayor Bloomberg definitely need. So just having a vote doesn't mean very much unless it's for the full $60 billion. And I don't know how the Speaker is going to do that if he follows his policy of saying that you have to have a majority of the majority. It's very difficult to get anything out of that conference, especially when you're dealing with the Northeast. If the Speaker can do it, fine. We've been down this path now for the last month, where I've been assured time and again that everything was fine. I was in with the Speaker with Governor Cuomo. Governor Christie was in with the Speaker. I met with the Majority Leader, Eric Cantor, a number of times. And by the way, Eric, as far as I can tell, has been entirely straight with us. As late as last night, he was trying to get the bill on the calendar. But I would just say that, if this is not delivered, and very quickly, Republicans have no trouble finding New York when it comes to raising money. And I would just say anyone from New York or New Jersey who contributes 1 penny to congressional Republicans after this should have their head examined.
Now, you say you are essentially now a man without a country. You didn't rule out a party switch. You are not ruling out voting against Speaker Boehner for Speaker tomorrow. How are you going to vote in that election? And could you become a Democrat by the end of the month?
First of all, I never started switching parties. What I'm saying is that when you're in a party, you give them a deference. On some votes, you may not fully agree, but you vote with the party with the understanding that when your region or your area is in need, the party will be there for you. So what I said is I'm going to look at every vote from a different perspective now. They can't count on any vote for me at all. I'm going to look at each vote entirely on its own merits because I just can't trust the party to be there for my region of the country, for the interests that are very important to me, including Homeland Security in many respects. But this was really almost like the final nail in the coffin. No, I'm not. I'm more conservative than many people in the Republican Party. I believe in a strong national defense, strong Homeland Security, but I also don't believe in a regional bias.
President Obama just released a statement saying that when tragedy strikes, it's Americans' duty to come together to help those in need, urging Congress to pass this type of relief bills. Why do you think Boehner is not moving on this? Congressman Darrell Issa, your colleague, said that this New York, New Jersey senators, they packed this bill with pork. I want to put up a graphic that Politico did. They said that from this bill, there's about $150 million that goes to fisheries in Alaska, $2 million for a new roof on the Smithsonian, $8 million for equipment for Homeland Security and Justice Department. Do you think that's the reason why your House Republican colleagues aren't moving on this and Speaker Boehner's not moving on this? Or is Boehner worried about showing a preference to New York City for some of the more conservative red state members of his conference?
Well, that statement from Congressman Issa shows how House Republicans are to jump the gun against New York. The fact is, every one of those items was taken out of the bill. Every one of those items, they were put in the Senate and taken out in the House. The bill that was going to go on the House floor did not have any of those items at all that Darrell Issa was talking about. I think probably some of the political reality for John Boehner, and he'll have to say it himself because he wouldn't talk to us last night, I would say yes, with the fiscal cliff and with people in the party talking about spending, he thought it was maybe too much to put together, but this is always separate. This part of leadership is to be able to distinguish and to say that this is something that is not part of ordinary spending. Historically, we have always stood with other regions. Back in 2005, within 60 days, the Congress gave, within 10 days, we gave $60 billion for Katrina, and that went over $100 billion. It's now 9 weeks, and Congress has not appropriated one penny for the people of New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. And this isn't an abstraction. My community in Seaford, the southern end of it is destroyed. Homes are underwater. I mean, it's terrible. Betsy-Pequot, Lindenhurst. Then you go to Congressman Grimm's district with Staten Island. You go to Congressman Turner with Breezy Point. This is devastation. These are people without homes, without food, without shelter, living in trailers, living in pickup trucks. This is not the United States of America.
And on that, Governors Cuomo and Christie released a statement saying that continued inaction by the House is inexcusable. I'm going to put up a graphic right now that shows the most expensive storms in the history of the United States. Katrina was $105 billion, Sandy $50 billion, Andrew $45.6 billion. You see the rest there. Sandy, the second most expensive storm in the United States in terms of damage that it caused. Congressman King, you just got into it right there, but for folks watching this around the country, for somebody who's watching this in, let's say, Colorado or Nebraska or Texas, that say, well, you know, it doesn't necessarily affect me. I don't want my tax dollars going to something like this that could be a boondoggle. What is being faced by your fellow New Yorkers on the ground right now by this money not getting there?
First of all, we have thousands of people without homes. We have others living in homes that are torn apart, where they're living under tarpaulin, where they're living in pickup trucks. You have many jobs have been lost, businesses destroyed, incredible property damage, and the local governments. The local governments, Nassau County alone has $6.5 billion in cost. All of the expenses that went into the maintenance, the cleanup, the first responders, the police, the fire. A sewer maintenance plant was destroyed. A waste treatment plant. I mean, this is what we're talking about, the cost, the infrastructure. In New York City, Battery Park Tunnel destroyed, decimated. Lower Manhattan subway system, incredibly damaged. But in my district alone, you have homes where people cannot go back to their home. My daughter has had people living in her home for 9 weeks. Neighbors of hers in Amityville have lost their home. So this goes on. You can go community by community. These are real people. And by the way, I would say to the Speaker, these also are people who historically have voted Republican. Imagine going back to them a year from now, a year and a half from now, and saying, by the way, vote for me for Congress. I'm the guy that couldn't get you the money, even though we got it from Mississippi and Louisiana and all the other parts of the country, and I have absolutely no problem voting for that. Everyone, as I recall, everyone from New York immediately voted to help every other part of the country whenever we've had one of these natural disasters. This is a national obligation. This is not something that was brought on by us in New York. And we're not people who feel sorry for ourselves. We're not looking for anything. All we're saying is treat us fairly. Treat us the way you treated the people in Louisiana and Mississippi, the way you treated the people in Florida, the way you treat the people in all the Gulf states whenever we've had one of these natural disasters.
Congressman Peter King from New York, we appreciate you coming on the show. Maybe play the song by Bruce Springsteen, We Take Care of Our Own, at that meeting you have with the Speaker later this afternoon. We appreciate it.
I like that, Luke. Thank you.
Take care.